Well, hello there, humans, bees, earthlings, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and if you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it. So I'm Bushka, and this is Pubg Mobile, and more specifically, this is the M416. And there's a reason I'm doing a video on the M416. It's because I've been asked so often, what's my favourite weapon in game? And you'll note there I said favourite. I didn't say best weapon in game, because I don't think the M416 is the best weapon in game. What I find the M416 to be is a tremendously versatile weapon that can cover off on a whole host of engagement types and be successful across a wide range of situations. And for that reason, it is kind of my favorite go-to weapon in the game. In fact, when I looked at the overall season review from last season, now we kicked off a little bit late, obviously, in the last season recap, so didn't really get a chance to get much higher considering the amount of time I had than the top of the Diamond League. But my weapon preference was number 1, M416, number 2, the SCAR-L, and number 3, the AKM. And that ran diverse to the majority of the player base, where it was AKM, then M16A4, and then 3rd SCAR-L. Now obviously there's going to be some variation in those numbers and some noise in those numbers, because a lot of the player base is going to get weapons early on and die. And their weapons that they get early on are more likely to be AKMs and SCAR-Ls than M416s, because the M416 for me is the hardest AR to find. That being said, it works so incredibly well. One of the reasons it works so incredibly well is because it can take 4 attachments as well as an 8x scope. And it's got very, very good recoil. And one of the things I've started doing lately with the M416 is running a compensator on it at endgame. This is a game I was running with Deadboot, and GT Hawk and I think it was Fly Mezza had already been knocked off in Persedo, I think it was. And I started running the compensator, and up until now, I've always run a suppressor. Now, the big change for me, the sea change has come in terms of running a compressor versus a compensator at endgame. On Erangel, you run a suppressor because you can hide in the grass, squeeze off shots with the suppressed M416, and no one knows where you are. But in Miramar, on Miramar map, you can't. And watch the grouping on this. I mean, that's a decent range, right, for an AR on full auto, just thumping shots into the chest and head area. And because everyone sees you, there's not a lot of grass to hide on or bushes to hide in on the Miramar map, so everyone sees you. So if that's the case, why not run the attachment that's going to help your weapon be the most accurate? And that's exactly what the compensator does. So if you run a full auto loadout for me on the AR, I would run the compensator, the vertical stabilizer, the extended quick draw mag, and then your tactical stock. You've suddenly got a weapon that was pretty stable to begin with, like just flat out stable right from the get-go, and now enables a whole next level of spray and pray goodness, where you can hold that trigger down in those full auto situations in close quarters to mid-range combat and still just keep knocking those shots into your target. Now, I'll admit that a lot of that has to do with the distance of your average kill. For me, in the first season, it was 60 meters on Erangel. It was, the average was 40 meters for that. So that's another 50% on top of the usual humans there. And I understand that there is still noise in that, but it makes a lot of sense that I prefer the M416, because the AKM, while it is a lovely weapon, and I do use it quite a bit, it doesn't have anywhere near the accuracy or ability to fire full auto at anything like 60 meters range that the M416 possesses. And that's a pretty important thing for me. The other thing that I often do with this gun, and you can see even with very limited attachments, it's completely accurate. The other thing I often do with this gun is shove like an 8x scope on it and use it for sniping on Miramar. Now, a lot of people do that with an AKM because you can tap with the AKM and the bullet does a much heavier dose of pain when it hits. The actual numbers are pretty straightforward. An AKM has a 7.62mm shell, so when it's hitting a level 1 chest, a level 1 bit of level 1 chest armor or no armor, it'll hit for 48 damage. A level 1 chest armor will hit for 33.6 and level 3 21.60. The M416 is only 41 damage, so it's 7 points of damage less than the AKM. That means if you hit 3 times, you'll kill. But you'll hit 3 times with the AKM and you'll kill as well. It only gets really difficult when you get towards the top end of the game and you've got much heavier body armors. But I actually think the ARs at the moment are a little too strong. I mean, look at this. This is the M416 at a reasonable range, and I'm only using a holographic sight. And you can see how accurate these groupings are. Even using a suppressor, not running a compensator, then you switch to the Kar 98 and finish off. And that's why this gun works so well for me. It's a gun that I find to be just so incredibly versatile and useful across such a wide range of situations. In fact, on Miramar, it can be very, very difficult to find a sniper rifle. And yet so many of your engagements are long-range engagements. So what are you to do? Well, if you're like me and you find a good scope, just shove it on your AR. Shove it on your M416. And the accuracy with those long-range shots on the M416 and the ability for that to tap out means it supersedes the need for a gun like the Mini 14 for me. I mean, the Mini 14 is a better sniper rifle, there's no doubt about it. But the deficiency between, I mean, even in full spray and pray mode, we just put 32 rounds out there and cleared that bloke mighty quick because the M416 can stay on target. The AKM just won't. And the SCAR-L doesn't have the ability to knock that extra attachment on the actual weapon, which is a big, big deal. There's no tactical stock on a SCAR-L. Your groupings are superb. Your ability to single tap at range and actually hit the target is superb. Your first 4 or 5 bullets, the recoil is really light when you've got all the attachments on. That 8 times scope, it just does everything. I actually think ARs are really over the top, and there's no real need to run around and grab anything else. You can run an AR, and outside of, say, a bolt-action sniper rifle, there's not much else it won't do as good as, if not better, than most other weapons once they're fully kitted out. Now, the M416 is pretty badass in terms of, well, damage per second, I guess you'd say. But there's more to it than that. It also has a much higher shell velocity than, say, an AK or a Groza. It's slightly higher than the SCAR-L and only slightly behind the M16A4. And it does it all with just a stupidly good amount of stability, as you can see in these shots. Its big drawback is probably the difficulty of finding it. But there's a reason when you're in squad, you see so many people running around picking up the pieces for an eventual M416, so that when they come across one, they've got that tactical stock, they've got that, the vertical foregrip, they've got the compensator. I mean, watch this little sequence here. I'm going to push over in the big old four-wheel drive. There's someone climbing up the wall here. I'm going to try and run him down, do a big reverse, and knock him. I love this move, actually. This is pretty cool. This is with Deadbird again. Go vertical. Get a 9 from the Czechoslovakian charge. Stop. Clear this bloke again. Just snapping straight into it. And then reload. Move up the wall a bit. Clear this bloke. And then look back down range about 150, 200 meters down the wall. You can see a small bunch of targets down there. Full auto again. Just incredible accuracy. Running with a compensator, vertical foregrip, extended quick draw mag, and that tactical stock, and a 2 or a 4 times scope. Jeez, it's pretty crazy good. It really does hit the noggin every freaking time. Like, it really nails that fine balance between firepower and reliability when you're aiming down sights. ADS, by the way, that's what they call it. Your shell velocity is good enough to pump out some damage at range. I mean, I'd rather run this with an 8 times than an SKS or a Mini 14. And that's I mean, the shell velocity on the SKS drives me up the wall. The massive kick drives me up the wall. The Mini 14 has 20 in the kick bag and has better shell velocity, but at the same time, I mean, you're getting about the same number of shells off, and you can put 40 in the magazine of the M416. It's just the choice of weapon if you're going to go and wreck stuff. There is no two ways around it. And because of that, when people ask, what's your favourite weapon? This is the one that I come up with. The most reliable, the most fun, the one that's won me the most chicken dinners by an absolute country mile is the M416. I understand that the AKM has a place in the game. I understand that the Scar L has very, very good recoil on its like first 5 shots. That if you can get a Groza, it's an amazing weapon, and it is, but you know, it's also a crate drop, and its accuracy and recoil is off the charts as well. Like, it's just massive recoil. It's just for shredding people up close and personal. All those things just make me think that the M416 can perform in pretty much all situations, time and time again. So there you go, boys and girls. Straight from the horse's mouth, that's my favourite weapon. I'd rather run, my favourite loadout is an M416 and a Kar 98, because a bolt-action sniper rifle is a specific weapon that is only built for one specific situation, whereas the M416 can handle pretty much anything the battlefield can throw at it. It probably needs a little bit of a nerf. The ARs are being nerfed, I believe, or have been nerfed in the PC variant of the game. And for all that, I would expect it to be slightly nerfed in the mobile version of the game as well. It just performs so bloody well. It's ridiculous. Anyway, look after yourselves, guys. Stay safe in the battlefield. Make sure you continue watching the live streams and all the giggle and all the banter. Get yourself a few chicken dinners, and go for a walk in the park and be nice to your mum and stay safe on the battlefield. Bye for now.